Hello, comrades, and he's a Russian Cossack from Australia. And today I wanna clarify a few things for a English-speaking audience for Australians, Americans, and maybe British. That living in Soviet Union wasn't that bad. Um, as some people say. They say that Russia was a totalitarian regime, but it's not exactly so. It's just what people in the media here told you what Russia was about a totalitarian regime, but it's not exactly so. Russia was proud of having a one of not Russia. Sorry, I'm sorry. Let's start over. Soviet Union was happy that they won a Second World War, beating Hitler, and the celebrations of Victory Day with a parade of military power was just a show off for Westerners not to mess with Russia in terms of its military. Yeah, military power basically, and it wasn't nothing to do with totalitarianism. It was more of a show off and celebration of defeating Nazi Germany in World War II. So that's number one thing. It was nothing in display with totalitarianism, like it's a big deal. It was nothing like that. We love celebrating a Victory Day. We love in Russia until these days. We still celebrate because 27 million Russians have died during the Second World War. 7 million civilians, roughly, and 20 million soldiers, compared to Germany, which was only 10 million. 10 million Germans have died in World War II fighting against Russia and fighting allies as well. But Russia lost 27 million people. And that's the atrocity of Nazi Germany in Russian territory. What they did to Russian people is, I don't want to get into politics and I don't want to talk about this. But what they did was horrible. They killed everybody and just burning people in alive in the villages, just just getting all the civilians into the one building and just setting up on fire. So it's a sad story, but clarifying like stuff like this, I want to clarify about Soviet Union. Also, people said we had short footages. That's not true. The short food storage started, or shortage of food started after the collapse of Soviet Union. Actually, that's when. So if people show you pictures, the Soviet Union has nothing, and that's not true. It's absolute garbage. We had plenty of food. I mean, maybe not as much variety as we have here in Australia at the moment, at this day, but we had food. We had enough. We survived. We survived. There was plenty of bread. There was plenty. They fed us in when I was in kindergarten. When I was like 7. When I was 7, I went to high school. But before that, when I was in kindergarten, I was like from 5 years old or something. I can't remember what time I went there, and they fed us pretty well, and it was all free. You didn't have to pay for kindergarten, nothing. It was the government taking care of you. So we had this. There was plenty of food. There was plenty of porridges. Obviously, not food wasn't like as good as we have here in Australia, and at this age we have much better food. Plus, we had fast food, but there was like you had a piece of chicken, little bit of porridge, little bit of eggplant caviar. I remember having that growing up on that in kindergarten, and yeah, so they fed us pretty well. Um, um, they gave us borscht for lunch, and yeah, I mean, it was great. It was absolutely good time, like when I was growing up. But after when the collapse of Soviet Union happened, that's when everything went dull. Like everything, like we have a lack of sugar, didn't have enough sugar, but it was only like a couple of years. It wasn't like a big deal. It was just like it was just people were trying to survive during that time, and people still worked and all that. But it's only after collapse of the Union that we have a food shortage. And I remember, yeah, like going to the after collapse of the Union '91, going to the supermarket, and they had like bread, which is like a brick. Here, bread in Australia is like a rottens. There in Russia, it becomes like a brick, like it's so hard you can't break it. So, but in Russia, people still manage to survive with that. What they did is they buy bread and they dry it in the oven, and it becomes, we call it sukhari. It becomes dry bread, and you can use it like it cracks, and then you can like crackers. You can crack it into the soup, or you can just chew it on it and stuff like that. That's how we managed to overcome all that. And interesting thing about Russian people, they're so resilient, and not just Russians, but like in Soviet Union, people are so resilient. They find a way to survive, even though we didn't have anything. Even though, uh, like eating just sukhari, which is dry bread, um, and no sugar. I remember we had to stay in 4 in the morning. My grandmother said they give 1 kilogram of sugar per person. I'm not a big sugar eater, but at that time, apparently it was really rare. So I remember my mom took me and my grandmother took me out on the into the outside supermarket, and there was a big queue, and we were just standing there just to get a 1 kilogram per person of sugar. So this just sugar came, and if you miss it, you don't get any sugar. So yeah, I mean, the Soviet Union wasn't too bad. We had a free healthcare. You go to the doctors, you don't pay. They get paid by the government. The government pays the doctors to do the healing. I mean, do the checkups, and it wasn't like a pharmacized way, but we had like injections. Sometimes I had injections for flu I had, or sometimes some kind of a virus. They also did vaccination, mass vaccinations, for like they go to school and vaccinate everyone. That was like that during Soviet Union. And I remember my when I tried to get into the pioneers, which is like a Boy Scouts wearing a red tie. I really wanted it to become a pioneer. We call it pioneers. They call it Boy Scouts these days now, like a Boy Scouts in America. But in Russia, it was like a communist thing sort of thing, and I really wanted to become a pioneer. But they said, well, you not doing that well in school, so you can become later. So I was left out, but I become later into pioneers, and I enjoyed it until 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed and everybody went crazy. So yeah, and I will share with you like, so it wasn't too bad. We had a free healthcare, we had free kindergarten, free school. Of course, if you were in school, you need to pay to get lunch, but it wasn't that much anyway. But the lunch was there is really great. We didn't have shortage of food during Soviet Union. It's not true, whatever they say. I don't know about other regions of Soviet Union, but in Moldova, where I'm from, we didn't have shortage of food. Only after the collapse of Soviet Union, that's when everything went crazy. That's when we didn't have um, people didn't have money, people didn't have enough food to survive, and yeah, and that's when the things went crazy. After the collapse of the union, that's when that's when exactly that the food shortage started. But even then, after a couple of years, we still had everything. Everything, just the markets of Moldova, everything started pouring in. We even start having bananas, chewing gums, which we didn't have before. Like it came from Turkey, and I remember even there were people were selling bananas, which was really rare in Soviet Union. It was like you can't get bananas only in Moscow maybe, but even my country, Moldova, which is yeah, at that time wasn't part of wasn't a big deal for the whole Russia, but uh, we start having everything, chewing gum. We have Turbo, we have Donald, We had like the markets just got flooded, but the only problem was people cannot afford it. It was too expensive. But my mom tried to survive. What my mom did is going to Russia, buying some things there, and selling in Moldova, which was things that are cheap in Russia. She was selling in Moldova because it was rare. So little things where wasn't a big business, just for survival. Where because if you have a big business and you make a lot of money, mafia will come and take it away from you. So that was the problem. Another problem. People could not open up businesses and stuff like that. But I remember Russian bread was so good. Soviet bread, they were still making it like I don't know what how. Yeah, I remember like things like it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It was like it was livable. Yes, maybe I remember my grandmother came from Australia. She visited Australia because I have family here in Australia, living here a long time ago. They immigrated here after the World War II. And my grandmother brought me matches, which are different colors. In Russia, we had only color brown, just like in normal matches. Here, she from Australia. She brought white, red, blue colors, green. So I went to school and took it, and my teacher confiscated it from me and said, "You can't say that." That was like 80, 83, 84, maybe 1984, 83. She said, "You can't say that. You can't bring this here. You can't show people." Like because it's KGB find out, that's her ass, basically. Anyway, yeah, there was it wasn't the freedom was the problem. Yes, freedom of speech, freedom of. But I was a kid, I was growing up, but I was growing up during good times. In 80s, everything was becoming like a free. And then Gorbachev came with his. I remember me and my mom going to vote for Gorbachev. He's the one who started the perestroika in Soviet Union, where everything changing life, opening up, and uh, becoming more free and stuff. So my mom actually voted for Gorbachev, and I was there, and I remember the red flags hanging on the building, and they were saying, "Vote for Gorbachev. He's gonna make it better. He's gonna make more freedom and give us more freedom and stuff like that." That was before collapse of Soviet Union, because eventually it came to a collapse. But uh, yeah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Whatever you hear from other people, I'll tell you what. This is my experience. I tell you from my experience, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty actually good. It was fun growing up in Soviet Union. It wasn't like terrible. Like you didn't have this, you didn't have. Yes, we didn't have much money. Yes, my mom works two shifts, a day shift and the evening shift, and we still survived. Plus, my grandmother, we also family oriented. Russians are family oriented. My grandmother helped because my parents divorced when I was 7 years old. My father went to live in another city, and but my grandmother helped us out. We used to go to market, buy stuff. There was plenty of food, there was plenty of everything. The only thing that started was after the collapse of Soviet Union. So whatever you see, the food shortages that people tell you, even the Russian people tell you, there's no food shortages in Russia, blah blah blah. It's all bullshit. I tell you, there was plenty of food. Maybe not much variety, but there was enough to have a to have a good meal, and the meals were beautiful. We I still miss some of the Russian cutlets and some of the Russian macaroni and some of the Russian tushonka, which is like a meat in a can, and there was like I still miss till these days because it was beautiful. So yeah, I guess I want to leave it at that. So don't believe all these people that tell you there was a food shortages and all that. It was only after the collapse of Soviet Union. Only after the collapse, when everything went down, that's when the food shortages started. But before that, during Soviet Union, we had plenty. We even had a black caviar. They used to sell a little can of black caviar for 1 ruble. 1 ruble. I mean, it was 1 ruble was a lot of money because let's say 1 ruble is like $1, and 20 cents is like you could buy a piece of, I mean, a loaf of bread for 20 cents. So $1 is like 1 ruble. You could you could buy a caviar, black caviar, which is so expensive. It's like $200 or $500 now. You could buy it for 1 ruble there. I remember, and yeah, and it was just yeah, it was like that, and for 20 cents, for 20 kopeek or 20 cents, you could buy a loaf of bread, and for 1 ruble you can buy a black caviar. It was, I remember, like 1989. You could buy black caviar easily in the supermarket. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. And don't believe everything you see on YouTube. Listen to the experienced people who lived it through. Okay, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.